By maintaining a strip of native vegetation along lakefront properties, we can protect our lakes, natural habitat for plants and animals, and prevent property from being lost to soil erosion. Here's Alachua County Environmental Protection's Stacy Greco to tell us more.
I'm out here on beautiful Lake Santa Fe with Betty Levin with the Alachua County Environmental Protection Department, and we're looking at some lakeshore buffers and talking about the importance of these buffers. So this site that we're looking at right now looks like they left some vegetation.
They did. We were talking how it's nestled in amongst some development. Typical of this lake, there's cypress, maiden cane, and other grasses. That's typical of the lake fringe wetlands out here. Although that buffer is not as wide as it could be for the utmost benefit, it does still provide really important benefits to water quality of the lake. The vegetation's holding the sediment in place so that when runoff occurs, we're not getting a lot of siltiness in the water. The ecosystem between the upland animals and the aquatic species is maintained with this buffer in place, and even wider buffer is even better. It's a resting and rearing place for the young. All the wading birds out here use it for shelter.
I bet the fish like those roots too.
And the fish like the roots. I mean, you've got nesting material. You've got everything that they can use. So, yeah.
So this also might, since we're in an area that's got a lot of development, this buffer might filter out some of the pollutants that might be coming from these yards or from these houses?
Oh, absolutely. The plant roots, are solid. They catch and filter any of the sediment and pollutants, and there's actually uptake of the nutrients through the vegetation. The plants themselves, I mean, they're quite amazing in how they do that. So you want them there. You want that in place, especially when you've got development uphill. And what we do as people uphill ends up in the lake if we don't have this buffer in between us and the resource.
So it looks like they've been removing the vegetation and just piling it up on their yard.
They have. They've taken that native grass and the maiden cane and everything that was right there at the water's edge, and they've pulled it, and so now you've got bare slope. You've got a direct path for pollutants that are maybe, chemical fertilizers or whatever up by the house to run straight down into the water. You've also removed the ecosystem. Any of the turtles or fish that were living in here and using this area for cover for food, they're not going to be here anymore. They no longer have a place to be. So
ideally, you'd like to see these people restore this buffer.
Absolutely.
And how would they do that?
Should. Well, in this case, I think there's enough remaining vegetation away from this area that they're starting to clear it, that if they just left it alone, hopefully it would come back on its own. I think a problem is if it remains that way for a long time, with rains, it's going to erode away slope, and there'll be big gullies of mud and that kind of thing, and that'll smother.
They'll lose their property.
They'll lose some property, and they're going to smother maybe any of the grasses that could have come back on their own, because one step leads to another step, and it just kind of obliterates that entire area.
So it looks like here, not only did they remove the vegetation, they've paved over the surface.
Yeah, they have. There's a boat ramp going right into the water, so you can imagine what happens when it rains, and sediment and anything else that happens up on the hill is just going to come.
So if they're using any fertilizers or pesticides on their yard, that's going to run right off into the lake and probably cause algae and undesirable plants to grow.
It is. In the spring, when people are fertilizing and using chemicals, we see the nutrient loads into this lake increase. Absolutely. And this is a really great conduit for that to happen. There's no vegetation to hold it. There's no vegetation to uptake any of the chemicals that may be applied up there.
If I bought a house on this lake, would I be able to do this?
Oh, no. Absolutely not. No. Current code requirements not only protect people from eliminating the buffer on the lake, but also from placing structures that go right down into the lake.
Out here on Lake Santa Fe with Fritzi Olson from Current Problems, Inc. Fritzi's lucky to live out here on Lake Santa Fe, so she knows the history of a lot of these lots. Looks like there's some native vegetation at this site.
Yeah, Stacy, it's a wonderful site. This was an old lot that was created from dredge and fill methods. Nothing was growing on the shore really, and the person that owns it has decided to let things grow back, and you can barely see his house anymore. Um,
Yeah, we sometimes forget about that, the aesthetic benefits of buffers. It
we
just
do,
it looks nice.
and what he's done too, so he can see the lake, is cut a little hole in the branches there so that he can still see the lake, and yet he has that nice privacy that's provided by the vegetation too.
Okay, Betty, let's say I get my dream house out here on Lake Santa Fe. What should I do?
The best thing to do is to contact us. We are one of the agencies that review building permit applications, and for new development we're happy to come out, or if you're making any major changes on your property, adding something. Because the county code has changed since 1992 in terms of buffer requirements, it can vary depending on the property you buy, how long has it been since it's been developed. So we're happy to come out and assist you with that. And if you happen to buy a property that the buffer was altered before, maybe by a previous owner, it may require some restoration, and we can come out and assist you with that, sometimes replanting or letting it grow back.
Well, thanks for joining us out on Lake Santa Fe. I hope you learned about the benefits of buffers. Well, if you want more information, you can get some of Fritzy's publications on our website, which is alachuacountywater.org or currentproblems.org. Or you can call our office at 352-264-6800 for more information.